Hollow Knight is an indie masterpiece created by a total of 4 people. It is one of the best games I have ever played. I'm not even a huge fan of Metroidvanias, but the way the game rewards you for progressing through the world really struck a note with me, and makes it probably my game of 2018. As much as I liked the gameplay, combat, and collecting upgrades, the best part of this game is the unique story and the way it's told. To help explain what makes this game so good, I'm going to split this video into 3 parts. One part talking about the narrative, the next about the gameplay, and finally, the world. Although I want to talk about the story and world of Hollow Knight the most, it's important to address the superbly designed mechanics of this seemingly simple Metroidvania. Hollow Knight starts with a cutscene of some guy wrapped in chains screaming a bit, and then being locked away by 3 masks. Then we are shown our protagonist finally coming to his destination and jumping down. That's it. Throughout the main quest, you get tidbits and pieces of what's going on, but never the full story. You know that the kingdom of Hollow Nest has now fallen to ruin, perhaps of some plague, but that's about it. Why is our protagonist here? Why is there a man screaming in a big black egg? Who is this stag beetle, and why is he giving me some dad vibes? Now this is what I love about this game. While exploring and progressing through the world, the game not only gives you rewards through currency, upgrades, and other collectibles, but also by giving you more information to the story. Most of this is told through NPCs that recount the days before the kingdom fell, and each one gives their own take on it. For instance, one fellow named Relic Seeker Lem likes to trade relics in exchange for currency, but also tells of the wonders of Hollow Nest before everybody went crazy. He talks about the king and his 5 knights that were revered figures of Hollow Nest, but their names and appearances seem to be long forgotten. Later, you might fight ghosts of the 5 knights and learn how these powerful bugs came to perish. That's the other best thing about Hollow Knight. The NPC's personal stories and quests are equal to, if not more interesting than the overarching story. Talking to a new friendly face and learning their tale is always entertaining, even if it's just a one-off character. Like, the Mask Maker. Seriously, for the longest time I thought this guy would be very important in the future, but no. He's just there to make you question if every bug is wearing a mask or not. I still love him though. An example of an intriguing but simple story in the game is the Pillbug Myla's story. The theme of Hollow Knight is having hope while living in a terrible time and place, and I think the best character in the game that struggles with this, and ultimately fails, is Myla. At first, she is happily singing her favorite song while mining away at gemstones, hoping to strike something more valuable. Over the course of the game, she becomes uncertain if there is something past the gems, and if it's even worth anything in today's broken society, but keeps digging. Eventually, she loses all hope, falling to the disease that has affected all others and attacks you. There's nothing else you can do except put her down. The game starts off with giving you a basic toolset of moves that your little bug guy, called the Knight, can use. You got a jump, a little nail to hit things with, and a healing spell to recover health. Eventually, like any Metroidvania, you gain access to new moves and upgrade your current ones, but Hollow Knight is deceptively complex from the get-go. See, the Knight can attack in 4 directions: up, left, right, and down. Every time you hit an enemy, not only is the enemy knocked back, but the Knight is as well. Combined with the game centered around platforming, this blends together in an interesting way, making you manage your combat against an enemy, and making sure you stay on a platform to not fall into any world hazards, like spikes. This is where it gets even more complicated. Your downward strike also acts as a pogo stick of sorts. Hitting an enemy with the pogo sends you up and them down, gaining you a bit of air to better decide where you want to land. This also works with spikes, which is a necessary way to avoid some hazards and collect some side quest stuff. Later in the game, you get abilities that reset when you touch the ground or when you pogo off an enemy. The game starts getting really intense near the last third, jumping around, avoiding enemy projectiles and spikes, dashing to keep yourself in the air just a little longer. I mean, look at what's happening in this clip. I'm just trying to survive in this part. Side note, these flying guys I'm fighting right here, yeah, they suck so much. I always get hit by their shots. They shoot their little orange bullets in just a way that I always take some damage encountering these buggers. There's not even a wide enough gap to sidestep their attacks. Okay, rant over. There's a whole lot of other elements I'm not talking about, since I only wanted to touch on the mechanics a little bit. The gameplay in this game is just phenomenal, and I knew I needed to talk about it at least a little bit, or else I would not be giving the game enough credit. A game with a good story but crappy gameplay is like you're just watching a movie. If Hollow Knight was a bad, buggy experience with a good bug story, I'd just tell you to watch A Bug's Life instead. Oh, what? Oh, I used my limited amount of bug puns in that one sentence. Huh. The story and gameplay would not be nearly as good if it wasn't for the kingdom of Hollow Nest. The kingdom is made of so many varying environments that are gorgeously hand-drawn by the artist of the game, and it creates a world like no other. From the thriving greenery of Green Path, the mushy caverns of the fungal wastes, and the border of Hollow Nest of the kingdom's edge, there's a lot to find and be fascinated by. None of this would be complete if it wasn't for the amazing music to set the mood for the game. The music I've been playing is from the game, and it really gives the feeling of walking through a deserted kingdom after being left to ruin for so long. Of course, the world is also designed to reflect the game's genre, a Metroidvania. The world is designed to connect each area in the game. After meeting the map maker in a room that seems like a dead end, at first, it's no big deal. But once you open the shortcut back to the dead end, it makes you go, whoa, I was this close to this area the whole time? It's a lot like Dark Souls in... No, I'm not saying because the game is hard. Trust me. It's a lot like Dark Souls in the sense that the world feels connected. Instead of moving from one area to the next in a linear fashion, the world has actual reasons why the locations connect to each other. Of course, the Kingdom of Hollow Nest isn't open to you from the get-go. Some areas are blocked off from the night until you get the necessary upgrade to pass it. It's fun to come back to a place like Green Path and discover a passage you couldn't access before. And as you go further down the path, there's a split, then another, until you realize it's a whole other area to the game called the Queen's Gardens. There's something special to coming back to an area and learning there's even more to this seemingly simple location. Hollow Knight is, what I have been saying over and over, a deceptively simple game that has complicated mechanics, themes, and world. Not to spoil too much of the game, but the story turns out to be very complex with how bugs made a kingdom in the first place, what threatened this kingdom, and why it's in ruins now. For a game that was only created by a total of 4 people, it's a masterpiece of video game storytelling that I don't think enough people have played. I want more worlds like Hollow Nest to experience, and I want other people to experience it too. I hope that some of you will pick it up if you haven't already, since it's a simply beautiful game that tells a story in a way like no other. Honestly, though, this guy right here ruins the entire game for me. Worst game of the decade, 0 out of 10.